Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight, I have something extra, extra, extra special for you. Tonight, our guest is Kim Constantinesco, altruistic living kidney donor athlete, National Kidney Foundation CAC member, and devoted advocate for her Broadway performing kidney recipient, Jamal Shara. Kim is an athlete in her own right. She is a lifelong athlete, including as a college basketball player, to competitive big mountain snowboarder, to doing backflips off a high cliffs. I'm going to show you a picture of that. Hiking, running marathons. She is the consummate courageous athlete. During the height of the COVID-19 crisis, she donated a kidney to Jamal Shara, a Broadway performer who uses his body in extraordinary ways on the stage and beyond. He is a talented New York City based performer who is currently seeking a kidney. Diagnosed with a genetic kidney disease called FSGS in 2017, Jamal finally received a kidney from a then stranger, our hero Kim, in 2020 during the height of COVID. Unfortunately, the kidney failed due to an infection. 9 months later, Jamal amazingly received a kidney from another stranger. 21 months after that, the second kidney failed for an entirely different reason than the first. And as they say, the third time is the charm. Jamal and his team, including the unstoppable Kim, continue to seek a third donor. Kim has also become active as a kidney advocate for the National Kidney Foundation's Kidney Advocacy Committee and has appeared in Washington, D.C. at the NKF's annual Kidney Summit. She's also appeared in front of the New York State Senate to share her kidney donation story, helping to influence the passage of a bill to fully reimburse living organ donors for their expenses and to guarantee transplant education for all possible transplant patients. Kim is also an author. She's an author of a children's book called Solar the Polar about a snowboarding bear and a skier girl who is missing her legs below the knee. The book discusses various topics, including Arctic warming, snow safety, and life with a disability. Please give a warm welcome to our friend, Kim Constantinesco. Kim, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Jim. Thanks for having me on. And that was quite the introduction that you wrote. Very excited to talk to your regular audience and any new friends who joined tonight. And I'm in awe of what you are doing for the kidney community as well.
I appreciate that very much. We try very hard to make sure that we're getting good educational information out there. So, did I state everything correctly in the introduction?
You got it all, I think.
Please tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your education, and your employment history.
Sure. I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, lived the first 18 years of my life there, lived in a number of different states going to college. Ultimately, I got a master's degree in health psychology from Northern Arizona University. I then lived in Colorado for 12 years before relocating to New York City about 5 years ago. So I currently live just outside of New York City, about 30 minutes north, near White Plains. And I work in the digital health space. So I am a content strategist, a writer, an editor, and I am also a volunteer EMT. I just got my state and national certification as an EMT. So when I'm not busy at work or running, I'm riding in ambulances these days.
Amazing. Amazing. Let's talk a little bit about your experiences as an athlete. Please describe some of your activities in athletics for us.
Gosh, if you ask my parents, they would tell you that I basically came out of the womb dribbling a basketball. I went on to play college basketball for a little bit in school. And then after I was done with basketball, I got into big mountain snowboarding. So growing up in Salt Lake City and living in Colorado, had great access to the Rocky Mountains. And so I got into the sport at a pretty high level. And then when I moved to New York, the snowboarding took a back seat because it's obviously not as accessible. And so I really got into ultra distance running. So I've done a couple of New York City marathons, and then I actually did my first ultra marathon last fall, I guess in honor of my 40th birthday. I ran with some friends and covered 40 miles through the Bronx in one day.
Wow. Wow. I'm a couch potato. Wow. Let's talk for a minute about your experiences as an altruistic, anonymous living kidney donor. What led to your decision to donate?
The COVID-19 pandemic played a big role in my decision to donate and the timing of it. That summer, at the height of COVID, I met another altruistic kidney donor, and she told me all about her experience. And as I was thinking about it for myself, I thought, I think I'm healthy enough. I think I could get medically cleared and psychologically cleared to be able to donate. And I knew with as much life that was being lost, I wanted to do something that would save a life, that would impact the life of others. So I started the testing process in August of 2020 and donated my left kidney to Jamal Shariah in December of 2020. So that was even before the vaccines came out. So it was a very meaningful time to donate. It was, an interesting time to step foot in a hospital. My recovery room was actually on a COVID overflow unit. So the doctors and nurses had laid down a piece of red tape on the floor of the hospital, and I was encouraged to walk after surgery just to get my body moving again and operating. And they said, Kim, do not cross that red tape because on that side is our COVID overflow unit. So that kind of, gives you a little glimpse into how intense the situation was in a New York City hospital.
Okay. And when you donated, the recipient, you didn't know who that person was. That person was a complete stranger to you. Do I have that correct?
Correct. That's correct. All I knew going into the experience was that my kidney was going to a 32-year-old man. And so we were required to check into the hospital at 5:30 in the morning. And obviously at that hour, there aren't too many people around. So in the waiting room area, I looked around and I saw one person who looked to be about 32 years old. And it was, in fact, my recipient. I obviously did not approach him before the surgery, but they ended up putting the two of us in rooms next to each other that were only separated by a curtain. So I did overhear his birth date and his name. So right then and there, even before the surgery, I knew that was my recipient. But Jamal had no idea who I was at the time. And yeah, that was pre-surgery, and I thought once I climbed up onto the operating table, went to sleep. That was it. My job was done. But that's kind of when it got started.
Okay. And just so people understand, Jamal is a professional commercial dancer, correct?
Yeah, he's an aspiring Broadway performer. So he sings, he dances, he acts, he models, he does it all. He went to school at the University of Hartford and majored in theater. And he has been living and working in New York City ever since. And he was diagnosed with FSGS, a genetic condition, in 2017. And basically, he realized he didn't have the energy he needed up on stage to be performing, and that's when they diagnosed him with FSGS and put him on the transplant list. And so he had been waiting for a few years for a new kidney to come along, and he had started dialysis and was performing despite going through dialysis.
Okay. Where did this transplant take place? What hospital?
New York Presbyterian, Columbia.
Okay, and I have it, the date, December 16th, 2020. Is that a correct date?
It is. Mm-hmm.
How were you notified that the transplant would take place on that date?
So really what happens, the donor and the recipient have two separate transplant coordinators. They have two separate transplant teams. And so my coordinator said really the surgery date was left up to me. So it was kind of what worked for my schedule. And so we landed on December 16th. It was kind of right before the holiday season. I knew I was taking some time off of work. And so that's kind of how we landed on that date.
Okay. How did you feel on the day of the transplant?
There was a nervous excitement. I can only kind of compare it to, the moments before a gun goes off before a big race, or before I'm about to drop in down the mountain before a big snowboarding competition. Like I knew in my body something big was about to take place. And so because it was during COVID and they had all kinds of restrictions in the hospital, I had to go by myself. My parents flew into town and they were at a nearby hotel, but they weren't allowed to accompany me to the hospital. So it was kind of a unique experience in that I was all by myself. And, I thought, like I said, once I climbed up on the operating table, that was it. They would take my kidney and I, did my part and my job was done. But that wasn't the case.
Okay. After surgery, it's my understanding that you Googled Jamal's name and discovered that the kidney had clotted, died due to C. diff. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, that's correct. I Googled his name and a website came up called findjamalaKidney.com. And it stated that the kidney clotted and died 4 days after I had just given him my kidney. And he was already in search of another one. So I questioned in my mind, I thought, that guy that I saw before surgery, maybe he wasn't my recipient. like maybe that wasn't him. And I had a follow-up appointment with my surgeon to have the sutures removed shortly after I had learned that devastating fact. And I asked my doctor, did the kidney clot and die? And he said, yes, it did. So my recipient, Jamal, was back on the transplant list. So from there was a contact button on the website, findjamalaKidney.com. And the only thing I could think of to do was to continue helping. So I reached out, I sent an email, and I figured Jamal wasn't going to be the one to receive it because he was still recovering from this devastating surgery and nearly dying from this infection. So, I sent the email to Jamal, but I knew someone else was going to get it. And so who got it was his college friend, Rebecca, who set up the website for Jamal. And she was the first one to see my email, to see that I wanted to continue helping Jamal with his search. And so then we kind of got off and running from there, doing all kinds of interviews and for news outlets and just getting word out that Jamal still needed a kidney. I had no intentions of actually sharing with my community that I was donating a kidney to a stranger. I was going to make the donation and kind of keep quiet after that. But once the kidney clotted and died, I knew I had to share my story. So that was a big surprise to everyone.
Okay. A lot of people that donate a kidney and for some reason the kidney donation fails, they kind of give up on the recipient. I mean, they might stay friends and that kind of stuff, but they don't really continue to actively work to try and help the recipient find another kidney. But you didn't give up on Jamal. Can you explain why?
Yeah, so I kind of saw this whole experience as a race with a finish line that I had to cross. And in my book, I didn't cross that finish line because Jamal didn't get a working kidney. So I wanted to do whatever it took to make sure Jamal was able to cross that finish line and get a kidney that works for him.
Excellent, excellent. There's a Dr. Jen Woolican, a neuropsychologist in the comments. She's saying your discussion's incredible and profound. Want to give a shout out to Dr. Jen.
Yeah, actually,
talk to us.
Big.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, big shout out to Dr. Jen. She was actually one of the first people, and one of the only people that I told that I was donating my kidney back when I first started the testing process. So she was a huge, huge support for me before the surgery and after the surgery. And I just have so much love.
Wow. It's my understanding that on September 30th, Jamal had a second kidney transplant that took place, and he did very well for a period of time. He was doing things like his basic work, dancing, modeling, 2 long-term contract shows in South Lake where yourself, Laura, his second donor, Rebecca, the lady from the website, all had front row seats to watch him. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Jamal got his second kidney from another stranger, Laura Lawrence, 9 months after the original transplant. So, Laura was such an angel in his life, in my life, in Rebecca's life. And Jamal had that kidney for 21 months, as you said, and he was able to perform in 2 long-term shows, one being in Salt Lake, ironically, where I grew up. And so Rebecca, Laura, and I flew out there, and we sat front row center watching Jamal perform in his first show back. And then Jamal also had a second show last spring in Washington, D.C., and he performed in front of Michelle Obama out there. So he was thriving in such a big way with that second kidney. And unfortunately, in June of last year, he learned that the kidney that Laura donated was not working out for him either. So that one failed for a different reason than the one that I gave. So doctors really believe that Jamal will find that third kidney, and that'll be the one that will work for him.
Okay. Let's talk about a couple of things that you did to help promote Jamal and his finding a second donor. I read something about you running 49 miles through the Bronx. Do I have that right?
So I ran 40 miles through the Bronx last fall, but that was not, the timing of that was not like to get him that second kidney. But I did right after, like just a few months after donating, sign up to run a 100-mile race all throughout New York City. I emailed the race director and I said, hey, like I just donated my kidney, I'm back to running, and can I have entry into your race? Because he only allowed so many participants, and they had capped at 500 runners. So he said, hey, you donated your kidney to a stranger. The least I can do is let you into the race. So I said, great. I hired a former professional triathlete to coach me. And I started off training. And to be clear, my doctor said, go ahead and do it. You can do as much as your energy allows for at this point. So, I mean, I was back to running even 3 weeks after surgery. I ran my first mile. So I let my ego take over a little bit and said, hey, I need to get my recipient Jamal another kidney. What can I do that's going to, capture attention? What, I really want to show people what can be done even with one kidney. So I did bite off more than I could chew in that experience. And I also can say that I was maybe utilizing running and training really, really hard to escape from the grief that I was feeling from the transplant failing. So, I realized there was a weekend where I covered, I think it was close to 70 miles over the course of 4 days. And I realized now's not the time. My body cannot handle this. So I pulled the plug on the race. I was very proud of my effort, first of all, to start training for it, but I was even more proud to pull the plug on the race, because quitting can be a form of winning too, in some cases. And, I continued on advocating in different ways that weren't necessarily tied to running. And it worked out, because just 9 months later, Jamal got his next kidney.
Well, the things that you did, the running 40 miles through the Bronx, the training for the New York City run, people can see that it is completely safe to donate a kidney because of the things that you did, the example that you set. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it's the only thing I have to be mindful of now is staying hydrated. I mean, you always have to be mindful of staying hydrated, but even more so with one kidney. And then I can no longer take non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. So those are really the only two restrictions that I have. But I can say that I've actually done a lot more physically and mentally post kidney donation, compared to some of my experiences before the donation. So there's absolutely nothing that you can't do post donation. And I would absolutely give another kidney if it were possible. Like, that's just, in my experience, how easy the donation was.
Wow. It's my understanding Jamal is currently back on dialysis, back on a kidney transplant list. If someone's interested in testing to donate to Jamal or becoming part of the paired donation program, they can contact Rebecca at findjamalakidney@gmail.com. That's findjamalakidney@gmail.com. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And if people want to learn more about Jamal's story, they can go to findjamalakidney.com, learn more about him. I have also been talking with some people who have been interested in possibly starting the testing process. And I'm happy to speak with people about what it's like to go through the testing process, the surgery, the recovery process, and kind of guide people in that way.
Okay. Do you happen to know if Jamal is still listed at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in New York, or is he listed somewhere else?
Nope, he's listed at New York Presbyterian Columbia still.
Okay. Do you know if he has a transplant coordinator there?
He does. I don't know who that transplant coordinator is. Again, anyone who would start the testing process would have their own transplant coordinator because they like to keep things entirely separate between the donor and the recipient teams.
Okay. Let's talk about the current state of your kidney health. Since the time of your original donation, have you had any issues or complications with your remaining kidney?
No, so following donation, I went in for my 6-month follow-up to get blood work done. They want to make sure my eGFR score is okay, my creatinine. They do the same thing at the 1-year mark and at the 2-year mark. They do all of that at the hospital or through the hospital that you donate at. And then after the 2-year mark, they just kind of send you off and say, okay, follow up with your own nephrologist or PCP. And so I've had to monitor my numbers a lot more closely, just one being an athlete. And I also wanted to get a baseline kidney scan, a CT scan, about it was 2 years after I donated. So that way I have an understanding of what that remaining kidney looks like. But no, I haven't noticed any differences with one kidney.
Okay. It sounds like, but I'll ask the question anyway. It's probably the dumbest question I'm going to ask tonight. Have you been able to resume your normal activities? Do you have any restrictions?
Happy to report I'm still, doing backflips off of the cliffs. I'm still able to snowboard if I want. I can run any distance that I would like. So no restrictions. Though, like I said, I just have to be extra mindful of energy levels and hydration, and just pay close attention to my body.
Okay. If you would be able to donate a kidney again, would you be willing to do that? And if so, why?
Yeah, I would absolutely be willing to do that. I think the thing about like, compassion is never convenient. Um, and the beautiful thing about humanity is you can't fully take away someone's pain from them, but you can help them sort of avoid a mindset of suffering as they're in pain. And so whether it's actually donating a kidney and doing that, or stepping up as a kidney advocate in some way, that's also another form of doing that. So I know, even though I can't donate another kidney again, I am still kind of creating that energy to be able to take people's pain away, or their suffering away.
Okay. You mentioned your kidney advocacy activities. Let's talk a little bit about that. You appeared in front of the New York State Senate to share your kidney donation story. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. In the spring of 2022, I went with a few other kidney donors and people from the National Kidney Foundation, from Live On New York, and we traveled to Albany to talk to state senators and Congress members. And really, the goal was to get the Living Donor Support Act passed. So that is an act that does not or enables living donors not to incur any costs around donation. So people who might have lost wages or incur costs from transportation or from childcare, we wanted to remove any kinds of obstacles or barriers to donation. So happy to report that passed about 6 months later. And so it's true that, politics are too serious to leave up to politicians. It really should be left up to the people.
Excellent. Talk to us about your advocacy work with the NKF and the Kidney Advocacy Committee, and going to the Kidney Summit in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that was a thrill. I just joined that committee at the end of last year, so I'm still somewhat new to it. One of the thrills for me was meeting so many different people that are part of the kidney community, from people who have received a kidney in the past to those who are looking for one, to some of the doctors that traveled to DC, to fellow donors. It was, to be around 150 or 200 people that spend a lot of their time and energy and just have so much passion for advocating for kidney health. That was incredible.
I also understand the NKF had a piece written about your experiences and Jamal. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, NKF has been great about, covering my donation story, Jamal's experience with kidney disease. And, it really, narrative storytelling is one of our oldest forms of education. And so NKF just does a fabulous job with that. It's, Jamal, he's going through 9 hours of dialysis each week still, and he's up on stage performing. He's in a show right now called A Bronx Tale. And so someone who is giving that kind of effort to keeping his health up to par, just so he can live and work. I'm grateful that they're showcasing his story.
Excellent. Excellent. Talk to us about your experiences with the Kidney Donor Athletes. What is that all about?
So the Kidney Donor Athletes is a great group. I think they originally started in Colorado because there are a high percentage of donors come from Colorado. So they, I found them initially just probably a week or two after I had donated my kidney, because I was interested in learning, like, basically what's possible after a donation physically. So that was a great source of inspiration for me. I joined their Facebook group, got to know some of the members, and I haven't been on one of their epic climbs up Kilimanjaro or anything like that lately, but I hope to soon. And they're always doing such great things and truly showing what's possible with one kidney.
I've had a couple of people on the broadcast that actually did the Kilimanjaro climb, and I was wondering if that was of interest to you.
Yeah, someday. I haven't
go
spent
ahead. I'm
any
sorry.
time. I haven't spent any time at significant altitude since donating. So curious to see how that will go. But to be able to climb a mountain like that with fellow donors is definitely a dream.
Okay. You had a viral Instagram post. Can you tell us a little bit about your post?
Sure. So for those who have not seen it, I surprised Jamal after one of his recent shows backstage. And I was actually with Rebecca, the woman who started findjamalakidney.com. And we had plans to go see Jamal up on stage, and we texted him. We told him maybe 2 or 3 weeks beforehand, hey, we're thinking about coming this date. And Rebecca and I were driving to the show, and we realized neither one of us had actually confirmed with him that we were going to be there. So rather than texting him before and saying, hey, we're actually coming to the show, we figured we'll just surprise him backstage. So that video was very, very real, very authentic. And Rebecca happened to pull out her camera and recorded the moment. And I guess, it was just a very sweet hug. And Jamal was definitely surprised. And a lot of people shared it. And so I think it's up to 1.5 million views on Instagram.
Great. Wow. By the way, Jamal, if you're out there tonight or you happen to see the replay, don't hesitate to contact your Uncle Jim. I'd love to have you on and tell your story, bud. Be a great story. Talk to us about Kidney Connect. What was that all about?
Actually, Uncle Jim, I'm not too familiar with Kidney Connect, so maybe you can educate me a little bit.
I saw a website called Kidney Connect, and your story and Jamal's story was on it.
Oh.
After the broadcast, I'll send you the link. I'm sorry.
That's great. Thank you, Kidney Connect.
As an old trial lawyer, that I learned the hard way that the individual that you have to do most investigation on is not necessarily the defendant, but your client. I mean, you had better be prepared for all the weak spots that your client may have. And in this digital age, it's just so much easier to find things rather than hiring a bloodhound to go out and try to find them for you. So old habits die hard. Do you have any other kidney advocacy experiences that we can talk about tonight?
So I don't know if you've had Elaine Perlman on the show. Have you, Jim?
Yes.
Okay.
Working with
So
Elaine now on the end of Kidney Deaths Act.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, she's been
She's a
on
fierce
the show.
advocate.
Elaine is great, by the way.
She's fierce. So Elaine, who also lives in New York City, last summer, she often would go out by herself with basically a sandwich board on her saying, you know, hey, I donated my kidney to a stranger. Ask me anything. So I joined her last summer, and we have more plans to parade around town with our sandwich boards. And mine says, donated my kidney to a stranger. Now he needs another one. Ask me anything. So, you know, we get people who come up and talk with us. We get people taking our pictures, and so we'll go on more escapades like that.
Excellent. Excellent. Any other future kidney advocacy events that you have planned?
Right now, I mean, I would love to go to Washington D.C. again next year for the Kidney Patient Summit. But right now, you know, I'm considering. I had to take some time off from running, so I'm going to start training again here soon. And you know, sometime in the fall, I would like to do a 50-mile run through New York City, and tie it to the kidney advocacy in some way. Don't worry, Jim. It's nothing close to 100. It's only 50.
Oh my God. I get out of breath going from my couch to the kitchen. Talking about running 50 miles. Unbelievable. Let's talk about your writing experiences. Tell us a little bit about your experiences with purpose2play.com. Purpose, the number 2 play.com.
Yeah, Purpose to Play. You know, I started that back in 2013. Before launching that digital publication, I was covering the Denver Broncos as kind of a traditional sports journalist. And I realized at the time, you know, like it's the same stories playing out year after year, only different names and faces in terms of players and coaches. Like there's got to be more interesting sports stories out there. So I launched Purpose to Play in 2013, and it's all about kind of the underdogs at all levels of sports and athletics. So I did stories on like the guy with one lung who climbed Mount Everest after surviving cancer, or the father who pushed his son across the country in a wheelchair. His son had cerebral palsy, and the dad was a runner. And so they went from Seattle to New York City. So really covering the stories that often fly under the radar. And that I met so many incredible people doing that. And it still serves as a great source of inspiration to me too.
Wow. Wow. The other thing about your writing experience that I wanted to ask about, I understand that you wrote a children's book, Solar the Polar. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was your inspiration?
Yeah, Solar the Polar came out in 2017, so many years ago now, about a snowboarding polar bear who befriends a skier girl who's missing her legs below the knee. So again, it was very much tied into Purpose to Play and showcasing some of the different athletes that are out there. And I wanted to teach kids, like, no matter what they may look like or how they may feel, there's opportunity for them in places they might not expect it. I was inspired also. So I got into a snowboarding accident of my own in 2011. I was doing a backflip on my snowboard and unfortunately landed on my head. Thankfully, I was wearing a helmet, but I suffered a pretty severe neck injury. So today I have a metal plate and 4 screws at C5, C6 in my neck. And, I could have had a very different outcome. I was very lucky to come back and, here I am running and walking and doing all the things today. But I realize there are people out there who haven't been so lucky. And they are in wheelchairs or they are on the mountain in a sit ski. I wanted to create a children's book that really spoke to all of that.
Wow. And if someone wanted to purchase this book, I know it's on Amazon, for example, Amazon.com. Is there anywhere else they could go to purchase it?
So I believe my agent is also selling it because the publishing house that put it out is now closed, but my agent is kind of functioning also as a publishing house. So ALP Arts, ALP Arts is another place that people can purchase it.
Excellent. Excellent. Got to plug the book, man. So, do you have any statements that you would like to our audience? Do you have anything in your experience that you would like to say that might be helpful?
Jim, you broke up a little bit. So you're asking, do I have any words of advice?
Any final statements audience? You would like to make to our audience? Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think like life is a curriculum. It's going to be hard for every single one of us at some point in our lives. I've been reading quite a bit about resilience, and there's a doctor, George Bonanno is his name, who's been doing a lot of great work on resilience lately. And whether you're a kidney donor, a recipient, a family member of anyone who is experiencing something kidney related, I think I want to share, resilient outcomes. The research on resilient outcomes are tied to basically 3 components. Optimism, a person's sense of this is a challenge. I see this as a challenge. And then the third thing is confidence in one's ability to cope. And so when those 3 components are there, that's really when resilient outcomes are most likely to emerge. And I think that's just kind of a really beautiful thing, no matter who you are and what you're experiencing in life, because challenges, hard things are going to come up, and it's really about how you navigate through them.
Kim, what an amazing job that you did tonight. Great broadcast. I definitely think you've raised some awareness about kidney disease and kidney donation in particular. I want to thank you for coming on and speaking to us tonight and doing such a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you, Jim. It's been, like I said, it's been such an honor, and I'm in awe of what you are doing for the kidney community, and can't wait to hopefully someday meet up with you in person and we can swap more stories.
Yeah, absolutely. The next time you're at the NKF Summit, be sure to pull on my sleeve. Let me know you're there.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to let you go, Kim. I have a couple of things to button up with our audience, but I've kept you for almost an hour. And I just want to say thank you. What a great job. What a terrific kidney story that you have. And I'm so proud of you for not only donating to someone that you didn't know, but sticking with it even after 2 failures for this individual. And as you know, FSGS, this frequently happens. So, but we're pulling for our buddy, and I'm really proud of you for not abandoning him.
Thank you so much, Jim. That means the world.
All right. Well, you take care, Ms. Kim, and I have to talk to my audience for a little bit, and I'll make sure that I post the replay to the broadcast on your Facebook page.
Perfect.
With your permission, of course.
Jim. Yes, of course. Thanks, Jim. Well, have a good night.
All right. You have a good night, my friend.
Okay.
Okay. That's our broadcast for tonight with Kim. I want to let you know next week our guest is Dre Roundtree, another kidney advocate that's doing a wonderful job, and talk about all the things that he's doing because he's special too. So we want to get that done. I want to thank Kim for coming on tonight, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Please check out the replay. As many of you know, as of the 22nd of April, Facebook allowing third-party applications on its platform. So now we're kind of working with YouTube as exclusive for our viewers, and to keep count of how many of you watch the broadcast. So be sure you check us out on YouTube. The link is going to be with the post to our replay, and watch the replay, subscribe, share, pass it around. Make sure you share on your personal page so that non-kidney people see this, because we were talking about kidney donation tonight, and as you know, those of us that have kidney disease, we can't donate. Those that don't, that is the group that can help us out. So in the meantime, watch this space. We'll be doing some interesting things, and you don't want to miss it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you next week.